We have reached yet another Pride Month, and with the world falling apart around us and the constant rise of conservatism worldwide, I think especially during this time, we need some positivity in our lives. And there are a few things that make me feel more positive than seeing some well-executed queer stories on my TV screen. Representation is always important, regardless of whether it's perfect or not. But today, I want to dive a bit deeper into what makes a good representation for a queer couple in different media. And because of that, I asked you guys to submit your favorite queer couples from your favorite shows. And I'm going to attempt the impossible, which is to rank them. And I'm going to be doing that whilst also discussing what I liked about their stories and what I thought maybe were mistakes on the writer's part. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Hello, my name is Freyr. I'm your favorite local first grammar and a Polish sociology student, and welcome to my little corner of the internet where I discuss all forms of popular media that interest me, whether that's books, TV shows, films, or music. As I said in the intro, today we're going to be ranking queer couples that you submitted to my Google Forms, which, by the way, thank you so much for all these submissions. There were more than 100. I ended up picking 16 couples that we're going to be ranking today. If yours didn't make it, don't worry, maybe I'll do a part 2, or there is a different idea of something that I could do, which could potentially be the video next week, which is ranking the best non-canon queer couples, because today we're only focusing on the canon ones. Let me know if you would be up for that. Also, disclaimer, I was meant to film this video like at the beginning of June, but I couldn't because I was sick, which was homophobic on the part of my organism, but also, can you imagine being like fully ill whilst there's like 23 degrees Celsius outside? I was dying. But I'm back in better shape and we can finally get into this video. We're gonna be tier ranking our couples using 4 different customized tiers. The first one at the very bottom here is the Calling Millie Bobby Brown tier.
You have a hatred towards the LGBT community.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that includes RuPaul?
Yes.
So you're homophobic?
I am.
This is kind of self-explanatory if you have like 10 hours of screen time daily. Basically, if I see these couples in the wild, I am calling Millie Bobby Brown on their asses. There are 2 categories of couples that are going to be landing here. The first one is the ones that I just think were very poorly written and poorly executed. And the second one is just those that I think should break up, because even though I do like seeing me some queer stories on my TV screen, I don't think sometimes these relationships are healthy. And that is okay. The second tier is called Girl, We Did That, Sis Yes. And this is basically for the couples that radiate this energy. Like, they're not bad. I don't hate them. But there are very clear like things about them that just like don't work. And also they might be slightly annoying. That will be the case for one of them. The penultimate tier is called Nothing Better Than a Glass of #red wine, except maybe #men. #yep, #I'm gay. I love this meme so much. This is for the couples that I genuinely enjoy. There are like maybe some things that I will point out as like, or maybe I would like to see more of them, or maybe this could have been tweaked, or maybe this could have been written better. But as a whole, I really enjoy seeing these. And our last tier is going to be, of course, Protect Queer Art, inspired by Megami on season 16 of RuPaul's Drag Race. I think this is self-explanatory. Like, this is for the creme de la creme, and this will be a very heavily populated tier in this video. But before I get into ranking, please remember that you can always subscribe to my channel, like the video, share it around. That really helps me out a lot. And you can also follow me on all of my other social media, which will be listed in the description box below. Also, spoiler alert for any shows that will be mentioned here. I'm going to be introducing chapters so you can skip around to avoid spoilers. The first couple that we're going to be covering is Korra and Asami from The Legend of Korra. I think this is a great start because I love them both. They are so dear to me, even though like we don't actually see much of them as a couple. They get together in the finale of the season in that epic scene. That scene is, that scene. I love that scene so much. I guess that's my only complaint about Korra Asami really, because we got so little of them as an actual couple. But that ending is really sweet. I have to admit it. Asami and Korra at first to me seemed like 2 characters that would just never mesh well together. But seeing their journey to friendship and eventually love throughout the show really sold me on these 2. I also just find it very funny that they are both exes of Mako. and they get together. It's just like, I wonder how Mako reacted when he found out. Personality-wise, I think, especially at the end of the show, they are such a perfect combination because I feel like Korra is that kind of character that sometimes needs some grounding, and I think Asami can offer that. She's also just a great supportive friend to Korra, and I just think they're perfect for each other. I also love the fact that the creators of the show managed to get this greenlit on Nickelodeon over places. Like, I love that. These writers knew this was their last season, and they decided to go out with a bang. I remember seeing this when I was younger, and I was just finding out about what being gay really was, and this was such a moment for little me, because I never imagined that same-sex relationships can also be between women, which, yes, I know that is stupid in hindsight, but you also have to remember that I was like 10 when this aired. I did not know shit. Come to think of it, this was actually, I think, my first sapphic representation I ever saw on screen. Now, I know that there is some bonus content of Korra and Asami like out there. I think there are some arts that were drawn by the creators, and I think there are also some comics. I have not read or interacted with those, but I'm willing to do so because I really, really like these two. This is a really strong start, but I will be putting them in the nothing better than a glass of red wine tier because I just wish that we had more of them in the actual show. If that was the case, they would have been in the Protect Queer Arts tier. Brittany and Santana from Glee. Okay, so Glee was never a show that I ever particularly enjoyed watching. I watched it in full solely because I knew it was iconic, but I wasn't really into it at any point, really. There were a few things, though, that kept me going through. Number one is, of course, Mercedes. Love her. Number two was Sul Sylvester, because duh. And number three, Brittany and Santana. I love these two together. Glee is a fucked up show, but there are the one part of it that kind of is difficult to critique, in my opinion, because despite how much of Glee is meant to be taken as a joke, they are so real, and they have few of the very like serious moments in the show. Santana's coming out story to her grandma, or her singing Mine by Taylor Swift to Brittany. That scene is just legendary. Of course, you also have like the less serious stuff, but that doesn't really matter to me. I mean, that's just the nature of the show. I was captivated by them, and I was actively rooting for them the entire time. I am also very aware of the fact that many people cite these two as one of their first openly gay couples that they ever saw on a TV screen, and I think they are honestly perfect for that. Heather Morris, you will always be famous to me, and Naya Rivera, we miss you so dearly. These two gave us one of the most iconic sapphic relationships to ever be portrayed on screen, and they have to be rewarded for that. Brittany and Santana land in the Protect Queer Art tier. Now, for their second couple, I have to mention from Glee, that's likely not going to be the case. Kurt and Blaine, there are a few queer relationships I've seen on TV that made me feel homophobic, but this is one of them. And the fact that they are endgame in the show is just, I don't see it. This is the kind of relationship that feels like a first love story for both of them, because it was, but it should have ended as that. They might have been like goals at first, but the longer they stayed together, that relationship just became so much more toxic. They constantly cheated on each other. I think Blaine dated Kurt's old bully, which is fucked up. They were insufferable together. At one point, it just kind of felt like they were together. They were lumped as a couple because of reasons. I know, because they were the two openly gay male characters in the show, so we have to put them to, like, no. Breaking them up was a great idea, and I also think that that's where the characters got to grow more. And weirdly enough, I don't hate Kurt post his breakup with Blaine. Like, that is actually my preferred version of Kurt, or maybe like season 1 Kurt, when he's like still figuring stuff out. I think Kurt in season 1 is probably my favorite version of that character. But also, other than that, he is exceptionally annoying. But then I feel like all of that character development that we see post the breakup just kind of goes out the window, because they still end up being together and they have that whole joint wedding. And listen, I love Sue Sylvester. I would go to war for that woman, but she should not have intervened. Like, I get it, but I also don't. You know, there are better people that you can ship together, Sue. Just get on AO3. Just do that. I promise you, it will be better than whatever these two have going on. Kurt and Blaine are our first official residents of the Millie Bobby Brown tier. Now, this next one, it might be a bit controversial because the show that it comes from just ended like 2 weeks ago, I think, or maybe 3, I don't know. I was meant to film this like way earlier. I said that in the intro. But I do want to talk about Rue Jules. But also, like, thank God that Euphoria finally ended. I want to talk about Rue Jules. And I have to give a disclaimer here. I watched season 1 and season 2 once. I never watched them again. And I also did not watch season 3. I just don't think I vibed with this show. Like, it just never felt like it was for me, you know? And that's okay. Not everything has to be for me. It just personally wasn't something that was grabbing me in any way. And I also was just so tapped out of it when season 3 started airing. I was just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna be engaging with that. And for good reason, apparently. I've only seen one episode because I was at my friend's house. We were having like a kind of like a sleepover. And she really wanted to check out the new episode that just dropped. So I watched it with her. Didn't understand shit. But that's the only thing I saw from season 3. And I'm not even sure what episode that was. But still, I could not care less. So as you might imagine, I don't know how their story ended. I mean, I know what happened to Rue because Twitter has been a mess ever since it happened. And there have been a lot of comparisons to 11, which I don't know if I agree with. But then again, I did not watch the season. So I don't have the full context, but I have no idea what their status of relationship was past season 2. And honestly, I don't know if I want to know. At first, I really liked them together. I really liked the take of this love being so unexpected for the both of them. But the further we went, the more problems arose in this relationship. It felt like they were the right people for each other, but the timing was just not it. It just felt like they weren't mature enough to be in a relationship together. They have problems with commitment, with honesty. They don't know how to handle each other. Granted, again, I don't know how their story ended, but I don't think that they should have been together. I don't think that they should have been endgame. And I mean, I know that Rue is like in the afterlife now, so I guess they're not endgame. I honestly think that they should have just like broken up, dealt with their issues independently, and then maybe somewhere down the line, it would end up being possible. But it won't because, you know, Rue is not here with us anymore. For now, I'm gonna put them in the Millie Bobby Brown tier because I just don't think that this relationship was healthy for either of them. And yeah, maybe we need to work on some of our issues before, you know, we try to be a couple. You know? Okay, this next one. Ooh. I think this is another controversial take coming from me. I love Young Royals. It's such a good show. I rewatched it several times. I just adore it. I honestly might start rewatching it again tonight. Like, I love that show. It's also my comfort rewatch show whenever I'm like sick. I always go back to Young Royals. However, I've never been that crazy over Simon and Villa. I just feel like their relationship has so many problems that they sometimes weren't really trying that hard to fix. Specifically on Villa's side, sometimes it feels like he's just being dense on purpose about what Simon wants from him. Simon does nothing wrong in this entire show. Like, nothing. Even if some of his methods are a lot, he doesn't react too well to some things and to being in the spotlight. He is just never wrong. And Villa is just frustrating how much he doesn't listen to Simon. He is so horrible to him for so long, to the point that their happy ending, which, listen, was great. I was genuinely surprised by it. I thought that this show would end with them two like breaking up, but like breaking up on like friendship terms, like understanding that they're not meant for each other because of like the difference of the two worlds or something like that, or something. It just made sense in my head. Having said that, I did actually enjoy the ending that is canon to the show because it actually showed growth in Villa. And this ending made me believe that they could be together and be an actual successful couple. But the rest of the show made me very doubtful of that. They have a lot of issues that they need to work through, but their differences are a bit more stark than with some of the other couples that we're gonna have in this video. And for the most part, the differences come from not just being ready to be in a relationship or having issues that need to be worked on, so on and so forth. With Simon and Villa, these differences also include politics. And on that side, I am with Simon. He is the correct level of woke, And Ville, he has some catching up to do when it comes to that. Like, even though he does separate himself from his family, which that was a badass moment. So yeah, I do like the show and I do like them, but I also have some personal issues with some stuff around them. Like, I was a fan of how their story ended, but I wasn't always a fan, if you know what I'm saying. Ville and Simon are gonna be landing in the nothing better than a glass of red wine tier. Please don't jump me. This next one is a bit of a sensitive topic for me. Jesper and Wylan from Shadow and Bone. Okay. Where do I even begin with this one? First of all, the trope of found family is my favorite trope ever. So obviously I love the Crows. Like, they fight criminals with the power of homosexuality and found family, and I love them for that. However, Shadow and Bone as a show just always frustrated me. I've read the books after I've seen the show, but there's a stark difference between the two media. I honestly would love to talk about Shadow and Bone in a full video. If you guys are up for that, definitely let me know in the comments below. But the short of it is, this show and the 2 seasons that it did receive is a combination of 2 different book series. These 2 series are called Shadow and Bone and The Six of Crows, and they are both a part of the Glee-shoppers. What this meant is, instead of getting a greater focus on one story, we get 2 that are connected in ways that don't really make sense and weren't there in the books. Like, they really tried to make them work together, but they just don't, especially in season 2. And in season 2, that's where we get introduced to Wylan, who is played by Jack Wolf, which, by the way, I would die for that man, and I would also die for Wylan. I love Wylan. And I'm also always going to be bitter about the fact that I never got to see Jack Wolf as Orpheus in Hadestown. That is a generational fumble on my behalf. But back to Jesper and Wylan. In the books, their relationship gets so much more screen time. Screen time? Page time? Attention. It gets so much more attention. That's what I'm trying to say. They get 2 full books basically to build up this love with some pretty interesting conflict in place that never really materializes in the show itself. And it doesn't materialize in the show because we just don't have time for that. We have 7 other plots that we have to go through and butcher, by the way, because most of them are really poorly executed. I love Jesper and Wylan and their slow burn in the 2 books. It is genuinely so peak. And in the show, first of all, Wylan's story gets just basically cut short. I don't think we ever talk about his parents in the show. I might be mistaken. There might be like a mention or 2, but they're not a factor in the story, despite the fact that they are very important in the books. Wylan's upbringing is very important to the plot of Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and it's just not mentioned here. At least we get 2 seasons of Jesper, but even that isn't really much because he's still competing for screen time with everybody else in this cast, like Alina, Kaz, Inish. But I will say that the stuff that we get from them is incredibly sweet. It feels very rushed when compared to the book, but it is very cute. The one cutscene where Jesper gives Wylan that key to an apartment, I think about that daily. And on the positive side, at least here, they don't get that awkward ending from the second book, which, sorry for spoiling it if you haven't read The Crooked Kingdom, but basically Wylan becomes kind of like a sugar daddy to Jesper. Like, that's how the entire situation kind of looks like to me. And it's very weird. Wylan and Jesper are going into the girl we did that sis yes tier. If this was the book version of them, they would be getting probably maybe the nothing better than a glass of red wine tier. I don't think protect queer art because of that ending. That ending is still very weird to me, but they would be close to it. I've had a lot of criticism towards some of our couples that I just covered, but this one is peak. Catra and Adora from She-Ra are probably the best iteration of friends to enemies to lovers ever. Point blank, period. Just the enemies to lovers portion alone is some of the best stuff I've ever seen. This might be one of the best sapphic love stories I've ever seen. There's a reason why these two are so iconic. The amount of shit they go through, the amount of conflicting emotions, how we get to see them deconstruct their worldviews slowly, and at last we see them finally realize why they've cared so much about each other despite being on literal opposite sides of a war. No one has come close to the level of storytelling in She-Ra. Truthfully, this is not just a regular relationship. This is one of the most epic love stories ever made. I could sit here all day and just like sing accolades for the show. I love She-Ra. I love how unapologetically queer it is. But I also really love the attention to details it has, the commitment to the story, the art style of it even. Everything about it is perfect to me. And Catra and Adora are the highlight of the show for me. If you have not seen She-Ra, watch it. I don't know where, because it did get removed from Netflix, but please do it. Find it somewhere. Go and experience it. Now, where else could I put one of the best sapphic love stories to ever exist than the Protect Queer Art tier? This next one, though, is a little bit more dicey. Robin and Vickie in Stranger Things are actually not much. I was gonna say a lot. They're not a lot. They're not much. I've previously made a whole video about Stranger Things and its writing of queer characters, which was mostly focused on the character of Will and specifically what happens in episode 7 of season 5. And by the way, that video is still like the top performing video on my channel. I've never had more views than on that specific video, and it's still crazy to think about that in hindsight. But in that video, I also talked about Robin specifically and somewhat about Vickie. Personally, didn't mind the writing of Robin. And Vickie was never really a character in the show to me. Like, she was always kind of like a set prop. She was barely there, barely visible. And when you combine them together, the problem becomes even more apparent. Their relationship is practically fully in the background. We don't see much of them together. They start going out at the end of season 4, and then they are still dating in season 5. But we see few moments of them actually being together. And that is partially because of the fact that, well, we have a plot, right? We have to end the show somehow in 8 episodes, which that failed. But also we have like 30 characters in our main cast and we have to give all of them attention. So obviously they are going to get sidelined. I actually like the fact that Vickie found out about the Upside Down, but I thought that that would be something that would bring them closer together, because now Vickie could understand Robin and some of her weirdness a little bit more. Like, she could understand the fact that, you know, her girlfriend is literally like fighting a fucking demon from a different dimension. But instead, in the finale, we learned that they broke up. Off screen as well. And we don't even get to see their date at Enzo's. That pissed me off. So this relationship is developed and ended fully off screen, and we only see few little moments between them. And what frustrates me even more is the fact that they are basically used as a plot device for Will to have his story of coming out. Like, how disrespectful. That is literally the only reason why they are even there, is to push Will to coming out in episode 7. That's it. Nothing else. I would be maybe even fine with them being like a C-plot relationship, but that is a step too far. Robin and Vickie are getting Millie Bobby Brown cold on them, although maybe I should call Millie on the Duffers. You know, she probably has some like unsettled business with them, with the way that they butchered Eleven's story in season 5. I'm sure she'd be up for that. Like, that one time she could align with the gays, you know, she would be like, actually, yeah, I see your point. Let's go after the Duffers. When I was writing this video, I really tried to keep the rule of only one couple per show, but I already broke it with Glee, and I'm about to do it again for the last time in this video. But I think here, mentioning both of them is actually kind of important for some of the points that I'm gonna make with the second one. So yeah, let's talk about the two main couples of the Rivalry. I know that out of the two main couples in this show, these two are the less popular ones, but I don't care. I don't give a flying fuck. Scott and Kip work so well together, and I love that they are actual adults that behave like adults. They talk about their feelings. They have amazing communication, also chemistry. The problems that stand in the way of their relationship are very realistic, and I understand why they are broken up for a bit of the season. Like, it makes sense. And then obviously you get that incredible scene in episode 5 with just like one of my favorite queer moments in cinema ever. Their intimacy and flirting is just so cute to watch too. It's so buzzy and romantic. Like, I genuinely do believe that they are going to thrive as a couple. And also, their drama never feels forced. They show us some of the real issues that exist in the world of sports when it comes to homophobia and the fear of coming out, and also not wanting to be kept a secret. But they learn how to deal with these problems, and in their time away from each other, they grow to ultimately be able to be fully committed to each other. Compared to the other relationship that is in this show, they are more calm in a way, but also they gave me more comfort when I was watching this show. And I feel like that's why I really like them. I can enjoy more angsty relationships. Again, that is not a problem for me, but ultimately they don't bring me as much joy as Skip does. Scott and Kip are landing in the protect queer art tier. Now, Shane and Ilya, let's talk. First of all, being in a 10-year situationship sounds like hell, so I applaud them for being strong enough to survive that. In the early stages of this couple, I was not that crazy about them. It felt like they were specifically avoiding that emotional connection that I personally really enjoy. But I mean, we do find out why later. Shane was experiencing being gay for the first time, and Ilya had a whole lot of stuff when it came to his family and also the fact that he unfortunately happens to be Russian. But the further we go, we see this relationship gradually go from just sex to actual connection, and seeing those feelings finally get developed really made me happy. Their relationship had so much darkness in it, specifically because of Ilya's story, but also that lack of a comfort thought that they were close to retirement like Scott was, and then they could maybe go out and enjoy whatever the hell they wanted to do. That made enjoying their journey harder, but also when we would get these episodes, like most of episode 6, for example, it would make it feel so much more special. There is another thing that I unfortunately do have to mention when it comes to Shane and Ilya, which is like the cultural context around them. I've already talked about it twice on this channel actually, but this relationship and the response to it did expose some people as incredible creeps online. It's hard for me to look at Holanov and not think of the insane behaviors of some mostly straight women online. On paper, this relationship is perfect and I love it as queer representation, but this like societal context unfortunately does tarnish my view of these two and honestly of the show in general. And unfortunately, that is likely not going to change with season 2, which I think reportedly is going to be out next year. I think that is going to be a very difficult time for everybody online when that season airs. With all of that being said, I will put Shane and Ilya in the nothing better than a glass of red wine tier. Janai and Amaya from Dragon Prince are up next, and they are my mothers. For real. This is another great example of like enemies to lovers. They start as generals on two separate sides of a war, but then they grow closer together. And after the time skip that happens in season 4, we see them get engaged. Amaya and Janai are just, I just love them. They mean so much to me. They are two powerful, badass women, strong in different ways that when combined are truly unstoppable. They are pretty much a B-plot couple for the Dragon Prince, very much, but they never feel misused or underutilized. We see so much of them and how their love persists, even though they are constantly having to risk their lives for their people. I also love the fact that their love isn't seen as anything like unnatural in the world of Xadia just because they are two women, but more so because of the political tensions in this relationship, because Amaya is a human and Janai is an elf. Their relationship is political, but it is political in a completely different way. It's mixing two different nations together, and a lot of the plot from season 4 onwards really focuses on that. Their relationship is not only like the cutest and I adore them together, but also it brings forward many interesting conversations about this world's political system. But regardless of outside circumstances, they stay together, they support each other, they are there to be each other's anchor. They are soulmates, truly, I believe that. And they are also the best couple in the Dragon Prince. period. Callum and Rayla shippers can suck it. These two, they are the real shit. I also appreciate Amaya even more because she's probably one of the best disabled queer characters I've ever seen. Like, genuinely, she's so cool. Obviously, Amaya and Janai are gonna land in the Protect Queer Art tier. I love them together. And I also really hope that we will eventually get that 7th season of The Dragon Prince. I don't actually know what's going on over there, if the next arc has been confirmed or not, but I do want to see it. This next one, I think this might be a bit of a controversial opinion on my part, but we'll see. I love Pose. Pose is probably the best queer show to ever exist. Like, it's actually so good. It's so impactful. If you have not seen Pose, go and watch it. Everything about it is perfect. It tells a very difficult story, but a story that every queer person should know. It's a mandatory watch. So after you're done with this video, if you have not seen Pose, go and watch it. And listen, I do think that Ricky and Damon are very important representation in that sense. And their story really shows a lot of the realities of being queer during the AIDS crisis. It shows how dangerous it could be and how a lot of people were in clear denial of like the danger that they were exposing both themselves to, but also other people to. However, Ricky sucks. I hate that guy. Damon is a ray of sunshine. He needs to be protected at all costs. He does absolutely nothing wrong in this show. But Ricky, oh my God. So here is a list of the things that I hate Ricky for. For one, he cheats on Damon several times, mind you. He lies to him repeatedly and tries to gaslight him. After he cheats, he is also incredibly selfish, delusional, not to mention reckless. He literally exposes Damon to a possibility of getting HIV several times and also stays unprotected. I was really sad for him the episode that he gets his diagnosis. That was an incredibly hard watch. Even though I hated him as a person, I would never wish that upon anybody. But at the same time, the show clearly tells us that he did nothing to protect himself. Nothing. And he only continuously endangered others around him. If I remember correctly, there is a line in the show actually where I think it's his doctor says, what did you think would happen? And I think that's kind of the point. He should have known better, even though he was, just a young kid really, who didn't know much about life. But still, I hated Ricky getting paired with Damon. I'm sorry. As a couple, it was a very hard watch because he was genuinely so manipulative to Damon. But I will always have a lot of compassion towards Ricky as a character because of his story as well. So yeah, I am pretty torn here. I think that this relationship is actually very well written for the message that it's trying to portray. However, this is one of those that I really don't like them together. I will be putting Ricky and Damon from Pose in the girl we did that sis yes tier. Now we move on to one that has been a topic of discussion lately because a trailer for the Heartstopper movie came out, Nick and Charlie. By the way, I will be making a Heartstopper video after the movie drops because I think there's a lot that we need to talk about when it comes to its impact, but also its reception, specifically in the queer community. And yeah, but like, just stick around for that. That's going to be out somewhere next month. Nick and Charlie are probably one of the most famous queer couples, just like ever. They are the cutest, and I will never be a hater of them. But focusing more on Nick and Charlie themselves, why I love them so much is because they are a perfect first queer couple to experience on TV as a person. When Jonathan Bailey said that Heartstopper should be a mandatory watch for every parent, I 100% agreed. Nick and Charlie aren't maybe the most realistic couple ever, but they show the basics of what being queer is like and also why it might be difficult. It's all presented in a very simple, direct, but also clear way with an addition of a lot of fantasy and whimsy. Whoever you are, whatever age you might be, if you don't know much about the queer experience, I can't think of a better gateway and a starting point. The story of Nick and Charlie is very approachable, it's extremely cute, it's impossible not to smile when you see them get closer together. But most importantly, it's a beautiful portrayal of young queer love that many of us didn't get to experience, and that also isn't overly sexualized or riddled with the typical tragedy that shows up a lot when we're talking about queer relationships. And even at its darkest, this show still remains just like a big, pat on the back. You know, it's a warm blanket of a show. People make fun of their like highs or I'm sorry, but I don't mind it. They're cute. They are kind of cringy, but it all works perfectly for me. They are a comfort TV couple, in my opinion. I loved watching their story develop, and I cannot wait to see how their ending looks like in the movie. There is no other tier that I could have put them in outside of Protect Queer Art. Now this next one. Oh, this will be fun. When I say that Alec and Magnus are the only part of Shadowhunters that I was able to fully enjoy, I mean it. Shadowhunters as a show is such a mess. I have never read the books that it's based on, so I mean, these might be better, but this show is so all over the place. It has a lot of pieces that I do like the lore of it, for example, but it also has some of the most like stupid and honestly offensive storylines I've ever seen in a TV show, like that whole incest plot. What the fuck was that? Alec and Magnus are genuinely one of the only highlights of the show. Their story is genuinely good, especially at first. That wedding interruption scene, even though it is slightly stiff in places, is one of the best scenes of the entire show. I like their personalities too. I think Alec being more like uptight and falling for this chaotic wizard is just really good. It makes for some very interesting conflict. Same thing with the fact that they do come from completely different backgrounds, represent two different worlds and two different sets of interests. I've previously mentioned that in this video, and that is something that I do actually quite enjoy. I like tension like this. It really does work for me. What I don't love about Alec and Magnus though is pretty much the reason why I don't love Shadowhunters as a show that much. This show is pretty cringy in places, even though it has been my guilty pleasure a few times, especially when I was sick. Because for some reason, when my immune system is failing, that's when I am able to enjoy this show the most. I don't know, maybe my brain power isn't just like high enough so that I can pick up on all of the cringe and weird shit that it's presenting. But this show has really bad dialogue and at times very bad delivery too.
Sales rack Sally isn't even clever. If you're going to deface someone's locker, at least make it original.
I wouldn't say many actors in the show really shine in it, with the possible exceptions of maybe Emerald Tobia or maybe the two actors that actually play Alec and Magnus, like Matthew Daddario and Harry Shim Jr. But what they have to work with isn't really that strong to begin with. Like, I'm sorry, the dialogue in this show is awful. And unfortunately, some of the Malek scenes suffer because of that. And also they do suffer because they are an active part of a show that is a complete mess and that also has some of the most boring main characters I've ever seen. Like, I couldn't give lesser of a fuck about Chrissy or Jace. Headslop at its best.
Don't stop. Go on.
But Alec and Magnus do stay the sole reason why I was ever invested in the show to begin with. And they are also the only part of it that actually makes you feel something. That and maybe some of the subplots that Simon gets. They will be landing in the girl we did that cis yes tier because I like them, but I just wish that the show that they were a part of was better. I fully forgot about this couple until somebody submitted it to the Google Forms. One sole person submitted it. And I don't know if this is meant to be a joke, but thanks for reminding me of this. Ted Lasso is one of my comfort shows. I know, controversial, but I did also feel like its message was kind of incomplete without queer characters in the mix. And then season 3 comes along and we get introduced to 3 queer characters. Colin and his boyfriend, who I don't really even count as a character because I don't even know what his name is. And then you also get Keeley and Jack. Keeley has been speculated for a while to be bisexual, but this season we actually get to see her date a woman for the first time. And that is probably one of the worst queer couples ever brought to screen. Keeley is an icon. I genuinely don't believe she did anything wrong in this entire show. She's perfect, she is never wrong, and none of it was her fault. But to pair her up with a woman, confirming the theory, by the way, the long-term theory that she was in fact bisexual, and then butcher that entire relationship like this, it was just very, very uncomfortable to watch. Like, why is it that this show has some of the best like portrayals of heterosexual love, but then we get one queer relationship and it looks like this? As I said, Keeley did nothing wrong, but the character of Jack might be one of my least favorite characters I've ever seen on TV. She love bombs Keeley, slut shames her, and then cuts her off in a situation where straight men are showing sympathy for Keeley. Like, they are supportive towards her, and her lesbian girlfriend isn't. You cannot tell me that it's more likely for a group of straight men to be more sympathetic towards a woman who had her private videos leaked than her fucking girlfriends. Not to mention the fact that there is a very clear power imbalance in this relationship. Jack is essentially Keeley's boss, and once they break up, she cuts her off. So she comes in, wrecks her life, and then takes away her job, her source of employment. Like, fuck you. Go to hell.
Quickly became homophobic.
So the fact that the only sapphic relationship in the show not only ends up in a breakup, but it's also very clearly full of manipulation, gaslighting, and love bombing. Like, this is one of the most toxic relationships in the entire show. Rupert and Rebecca are right there, yet they can't even compete with what the hell these two have going on. Also, might be an off moment to mention this. I realized that, but I just want to say that I was very, very sad to hear the news about Anthony Head. May he rest in peace. He was genuinely such a good actor, and from what I've seen, also such a good soul. He will be so dearly missed. But back to Keeley and Jack. I wanted for this relationship to work out, but it was written to be unsuccessful, and I just wonder what was even the point of committing to it then. Their relationship brought nothing positive to the show, especially representation-wise. It was a poor execution of a sapphic relationship, and it's one of the reasons why season 3 wasn't as good. So you not only butchered the idea that a lot of your fans wanted from your show, but also you butchered your own show as a result. And also the fact that Keeley has been in this like love triangle with Jamie Tart and Roy, and she's just gonna come back to that apparently in season 4, and that all happens after her like adventure with a woman. And also the fact that that specific relationship out of the 3 was the most toxic one. That is just crazy. Like, this is just bad press for sapphics, and I hate it. Keeley and Jack will be getting Millie Bobby Brown called on them, specifically Jack. I think she's gonna let Keeley slide because, you know, Keeley is an actual, you know, good person. If there are any sapphics watching, you deserve better than this. I just talked about one of the worst queer couples I've ever seen on the screen. So it's only natural that now I'm going to talk about one of the best. I really like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It isn't like my favorite show ever, but I do really enjoy watching it. And I think that Captain Holt and Kevin were always one of my favorite parts of it. They completed each other so well as characters, but what I really appreciated about the writing specifically is how far removed from the different queer stereotypes they are. And I noticed that even more because Brooklyn Nine-Nine easily could have leaned into that just for like cheap laughs. Like, these were just two guys who loved each other, who also managed to complete each other perfectly. This relationship is just so pure, so magical, but also so down to earth. I think they are practically just like unhateable. I also really appreciate them even more knowing that this show also holds one of the worst queer couples I've ever seen. Well, maybe not the worst, but one of the characters in it I really, really disliked. And I, of course, mean Rosa and Jocelyn. Jocelyn. I mean, if Jocelyn has no haters, I am dead. So yeah, this is definitely a safe space for Captain Holt and Kevin fans. I'm gonna give them the nothing better than a glass of red wine tier. I really like them. They are just very, very cute. They weren't like the main focus of the show, and I honestly could have just watched an entire show just about them. So this rating actually does feel pretty much accurate for me, but maybe they could have been in the Protect Queer Arts tier. But that is officially our final tier ranking. Definitely let me know if you agree with some of the decisions I made. I think some of them are going to be controversial. I think most people probably have Simon and Vila in the Protect Queer Art tier, maybe Shane and Ilya as well. Actually, a lot of them could have went there. Yeah, maybe even like Jesper and Wylan, but this is my video and it's my opinions. However, if you do want to yell at me, respectfully, of course, you can do that in the comments below. Once you're there, you can also remind me what queer couples maybe I missed and what kind of pride theme video you would like to see next week. I was kind of thinking of doing one when we would rank like non-canon ships based on how much they should have happened. We can do that, or you can just talk about, you know, different kinds of representation. I'm also very much up for that. So yeah, definitely let me know what you would like to see from me going forward. Make sure to check out my other stuff and go out and celebrate. It's still Pride Month at the time of me recording this and posting this actually. So go out there, have fun, have queer experiences, meet people. I wish you all the best for this Pride Month. Remember, be who you are for your pride. And with that, thank you so much for watching. If you stuck around till the end, I love you so, so much. And I will see you again next week. Bye.